Hey everyone, it's going small. And in this video, basically this whole video is about just answering one question, which is not if is your AI good or not. Otherwise, I mean you already know it's good. Otherwise, you would turn it off already. It's actually about something that is one level down from this, which is like how to actually know if the results of the AI, the output of the AI, is actually right, instead of just hoping it is. And actually, like these two are way different places to be standing in. And based on what I've seen, most teams can't tell you which one they're actually in. And so basically, they would like have a number that looks green on screen on dashboard, and they would feel that things are fine. And somewhere along the way, they just like start treating that feeling as an actual fact. So today I'll show you exactly like real system. It was showing green on the dashboard. Everyone trusted it, and at the same time it was wrong. So after that I'll hand you like the tool that tells you exactly like how to differentiate hoping and the knowing part from each other. So you don't have to run on hope ever again. Okay. Next one. So for this one, I want you like to sit here for a second, because like this is like the whole problem in just like one line here. So basically, your dashboard would say, like the AI, the output is good, fine, but how do you actually know it is? So I want you like to walk the chain with me. So the number on the screen is green. Therefore, what? Therefore, like the thing it stands for is actually true. Like why? Well, like what connects these two together? Like for most people, like when you just like push on this point, there's nothing there green, so therefore it's fine. And that's not reasoning. It's there's actually reflex and stupid reflex here. And like the whole job today is to put something real where this reflex and hope is sitting right now. So so now let me make this concrete for you. So what happens, like for this example, like I got pulled into a system where like a lot of you are actually building something similar right now. So for this scenario, like a company had tens of thousands of internal documents. We're talking stuff like contracts, policies, specs, etc. And what they've done is like they've built an AI to answer questions over all of that. So basically, the system in plain English, this is how it works. So you'd ask something in plain English, the AI would find the relevant pages and write you an answer along with the citation. And this like wasn't a simple demo. This actually was like a internal production tool for, and basically the terms of request was handling thousands of requests per week. And like their team were using it on a daily basis to manage like their whole entire operation here. But and like by every number on the wall, it was like for this internal it was like a total hit. And I just like wanted to hold that picture for a second. So it seemed like a success, and everyone was proud of it, because like everything I'm about to show you happened while the things like looked perfectly healthy on the surface level. So here's now like one real answer so fast. So like this example is like from the system. So let's say like for this one it's about a refund window. So just read it. It's fluent, specific, and it even like cites a like section of an actual contract, as you can see right here. And for most people, like if you get this type of answer, you would just like go and act on it, and you would never look back to double verify this. And although this looks on the surface level, it looks like nice and accurate, but it was actually completely wrong. So basically, the section that it was pointing to had nothing to do about the 30 days claim, and the number basically was just like invented by AI here. And like look how it actually how this like it was wrong, because it's like the whole danger here. So it's not wrong in a way that looks wrong, like there were like no error message, not like I'm not sure. It's actually like wrong wherein the exact uniform of every correct answer the system has ever given before. And to the person reading this, it's indistinguishable from the truth. And yeah, so we'll just hold that word here. It's basically like indistinguishable. And basically, we come back to this specific thing. So, like now, let's talk about like the internal dashboard for this, like how they were monitoring this tool. So basically, that's happening. Like here's like where the team was looking while this previous like error example happened. They were looking at just like this one specific number here, which is like the quality score. For them, it was like 94, so it was also green. So based on that, the system should be like steady, healthy the whole time, right? And actually, this is like the seed of everything. So like two things were true in the same instant here. So the system was actually given confident, cited, and also like at the same time wrong answers. And the one number that everyone trusted said all is was going, everything like was going super good. So both of these were actually true, and they are true side by side here. There's no any controversy here. So and so basically, what happens like nobody saw the contradiction, because the only instrument they had was pointed at the wrong thing here, which is like the quality score. And that gap here between like the green number and the broken reality is what this whole talk is actually about. And basically it's about like why it opens, why nobody sees it, and what you should do about this thing. Okay, so first let me kill the comfortable thought here. Right now your instinct is probably like all these people were careless. I'd have got this. Yeah, they were not serious. That all these like blame toward this team. But in reality, like they were not careless. They were like good team, and they like were run like a good, super profitable business. And their mistake here, they were watching like clean quality number that is exactly what any competent team in their place would suppose to do here. And actually, this matters a lot, because if you like just leave here thinking that this was just sloppiness from them, and like you would never do something like this, you would learn nothing here. And actually, what would happen is like you'll be the most person would be exposed to to stuff like this. So the failure doesn't come from something like carelessness. The reason of this failure actually comes from something structural here. We're talking about something that was hidden quietly inside almost every system like this one. Also, yeah, most likely including yours as well. So let me show you exactly how careful, reasonable choice walked good team straight out of a cliff here. So so this is like a dashboard breakdown in a nutshell. This is like what good looks like for them. So quality, uptime, latency, volume, satisfaction, cost. Like all these were green. Like and any operator would look at this and they would be proud of what they built. And this actually is a trap here, because like the thing that feels like competence, like pick any key number here and just keep it green, is like the exact thing that hid this failure from like in plain sight. So here's like the first idea here, and it runs under this entire talk that we're gonna have. So basically, like every number on that dashboard is proxy. Like it basically it's like stand-in for something that you actually care about, but you can't watch directly. So think of this thing at like this. So you basically like you cannot personally read all 40,000 answers. So what you do is like you appoint messenger, and you send just like one number out to go check out the truth, and that messenger would report the truth back to you. And that 94 here was this messenger. So basically, you wouldn't care about this number itself. What you care about is whether the answers are true, and this number is just like a messenger that you send to find this answer for you. And like every failure in this talk is like the same failure here. So the messenger would come back and it will tell like everything is fine, and everything and everyone like would stop just looking, and nobody would ever ask like whether the messenger like ever had actually checked the thing that they're supposed to check or not. And yeah, so basically I want you now to keep the messenger in your head, and we're going to watch like, and now what we're gonna see is we're gonna see it lying in four different separate times. So okay, so now let me raise the stakes a little bit, because like so far this sounds like quality issue, and in reality it's way more bigger. Like the output of this thing doesn't sit quietly in log. Basically it's not like that someone would read it and that's it. Basically what happens in these type of systems, people would read the data, they interpret it as the actual truth, and they would act on it. So and like 99.99% of the cases they won't just like pull the contract and double check the citation. So the whole because like the whole system reason like the system exists in the first place is so they don't have to do that. And yeah, so basically like for these type of systems, the answer from the AI here isn't like the end of anything. It's actually like the start of a whole chain, and just like one wrong and fact here can be injected into like the front of the process, would make the whole process so far like bad. Like it's like something so common in software engineering, like garbage in, garbage out. So if the initial input from the output from the AI, which used in the as input for this process, was garbage, then everything would be built on that would be garbage as well. Simple as that. Okay, so I want you now to see like what happens next. So for these type of systems, here's actually what the cause would actually live. So like the wrong answer would what happens is become a wrong action. And so for example, like someone would cause that refund window to a customer, and what happens is like that would become a wrong decision. And what happens from here is like now this thing becomes like a commitment that the company has to honor now, and that decision gets built on by the next one and the next and the next. So here's like the second idea here. Basically it stacks right on the messenger, and just like one wrong answer is in a trusted system like this isn't a typo, it's actually foundation. So what happens like things would get built on top of it, and the longer that nobody catches this issue, the more weight is sitting on top of this. Yeah, so this is like the difference between a system that's wrong and a system that's load bearing and also wrong. So the first one would cost you like just like one answer. The second thing would cost you everything that would be standing on this specific answer. So yeah, like nothing here like about the green number would tell you which one you've got, either like wrong, just like wrong answer or correct answer. You cannot get this from that green number that we saw earlier. So now here's like the part that that should concern you really. Like I want you to look at this chain right here. So find me like the step where somebody would catches the error in such like workflow. So the short answer is like there isn't anyone. So basically, like there will be like no stage downstream that would ever reread the original document. So what happens, like the person would trust the answer, the decision would trust the action, and every stage would inherit the same mistake. And basically, what happens, like will piles it, will just like piles it and adds more weight on top of it, and none of them would look back to even like check the source if it was correct or not. So, and yeah, basically what happened is like I've learned this exact lesson on a document reading system once. So what happens, like these like one was like actually a completely different word here. So if like the very first step misreads a character on the page, nothing downstream can ever recover it. And you can have like the smartest everything after, but it does not matter anymore, because the one thing that saw the original truth was that first read, and in that case got it wrong, so everything after that just would trust it. So this is like actually the same shape here. The document was the only place that the truth ever lived, and the one move that nobody made was to check if the answers were actually correct or not. So the error doesn't get caught at all, and it will get buried, and like deeper and deeper, like with every more steps that will be built on it. And what happens, like just like with some, it's just like would be forced by something to get on the surface. By then you're not just like fixing one wrong answer. Basically, we need to fix like a whole strategy, like a whole decision, whole plan that was built on just like wrong answer here. And yeah. And now let's talk about like why does this happen at all. So like yeah, here's now like the first real gear in this machine. So when like a system hands you a wrong answer, your brains would files it like just like one thing. So it would be filed like the AI messed up here, and that instinct actually wrong, and actually it's like the exact reason the failure was invisible in this case. So wrong answer here isn't just like one failure; it's actually two completely different failures here. So and also like these two complete different failures have like two completely different causes, and that happens to produce like the identical bad result. And unless like you can tell them apart, you can fix either of them. So let me show you both of these failures here. Okay, so basically like the system has two major jobs here, and they're actually like nothing alike. So the first job is to actually find the right documents, and that's the search part. The second part is the generation, which is like to write an answer from what it actually found, and that's the language model here. These like basically two jobs. There are like two separate machines, and basically these are like two ways for the system to fail here. So for path A, the search would fails. It can like pull the wrong pages. For like path B, the search would works. It would pull the right page, but then like the writing would fails, and the model would just like ignore what it was handed for them. So basically these are like two different roads, and on the surface they would look like both the same, because like where they ended but these are so different reasons why an answer would be wrong. So like this is like the whole problem. So let me actually walk you through like each road slowly so you can better understand how to diagnose it and how you can fix it before something major could happen. Let's start by talking about the first road here. So for the which is like here the retrieval part. So like what happens, like for example you're gonna ask about the refund window, and the answer would be stated in section 9 of specific contract, but the way you phrased it is and like the way the contract is worded won't look similar in the search. So for example you may say something like refund window, and the document would say something like buyer's right to re-signed within 30 days. So these on the surface they would look so different, and right now like you and I would know that these are the same thing, but the search and the matching algorithm won't treat them similarly. So what would end up happening is like it will search this into like 40,000 documents, pulls back like three that are vaguely related and useless because like mathematical score on which one is closest to what you searched for in the query, and actually these will be so useless, and just like the one page that actually had your the answer that you wanted will not even like be sitting here and will not be even get picked from the system. So here's like the way to see it here. So basically I want you to think about this I want you to think like about like for example trying to find a song stuck in your head. So you may like remember the exact tone, but you cannot remember any single word of this song. So what you would do, for example, you would hum it into like a search box, and what ends up happening is you would get nothing, because the reason of this is like okay, I wanted to ignore the advanced like applications like Shazam and all that, was just like hum and you can get the song. Let's say you just like hum the song into Google search or anything, I don't care, just to make this example simpler. Basically what ends up happening is you would get nothing, and the reason of that is like the search would like would indexes the words, and you're just like holding the melody here, so it would not understand what you're saying. And the song is in here is like what happens, like the match would fail because you and the index are speaking two different languages, and that's exactly what happens for this part of the system. We're talking about the retrieval part. So the what happens is actually the question and the documents meant the same thing, but into like different languages. And what happens is like the search only speak one language here. And I want you to notice something, which is like the model hasn't even started writing yet, and the failure already happened. Like upstream in the finding here. And now let's talk about the second part, or the second road. And this one is actually more stranger than the first one. So this time, actually, the search would nails it. It's gonna like retrieve the correct document, and you're gonna find the exact right page and citation to use. And actually, it will like even like place it on the desk in front of this model, and right now like the truth already exists for the model to just like generate the answer and give it back to the user. But what happens is like the model would write something else anyway, like to just like ignore everything and just like invent something from its mind. I mean, by now, like, yeah, maybe you were something like called hallucination when it comes to AI models, but let me explain actually for this specific scenarios like why this actually happens. So for this scenario, this happens because like what happens like language model with pull like from two different sources, and it will blend them together. And like when it blends them, it does not know which one is which. So maybe like one source is the document that you actually handed, and the other one is just like everything everything else is like absorbed in its training. So one is like a vast fuzzy memory of how the word usually goes, and the other one is the answer that the data that you wanted to analyze. And what happens many times, like when these two blend together, the model can drift off the page, and it will start just like film stuff from its memory, and it would just like write what it would sound right based on the thousand other contracts it's already seen, instead of like just like checking the page that you already gave it to analyze. And here's like the way that I want you to see this thing. So let's say, for example, you've met this person, the senior expert. So like he's so experienced, they would answer like your questions before they've actually read the whole file you handled them, and 9 times out of 10 they will be super right, which is like exactly why this is like super dangerous, because like that one time that your file said something like unusual, and they will just like talk it right over it with like total confidence, and what they happen is like they'll just like give you another answer from their memory instead of just like checking the goddamn page that's in front of them. And like that's like the whole reason of this type of failure, and this path to of talking about the generation path. Yeah, this one. It's like the whole reason of this issue. And as you can see by now, like these two are so different causes. So basically, it's for the second one, the search did its actual job, get us the needed document. But although that, the failure still happens because the language model in this case. Okay. As I told you earlier, like from the output standpoint, both of these would look similar. So I want you like to look at these two examples here. So left one comes from the search failing, and right one would come from like the writing failing. These two are two different like broken machines, but and like these two would require two opposite fixes here, but on the surface, or like at least on the output side, they would look identical, like with the same confident tone, same clean format, same citation, and like yeah, if you just like look at the output, there's no way on earth to tell which one is the actual machine that is broken. And here's the way that you can see it, and this is like the center of this whole talk here. What the reason of this is like what happens is like you've got one symptom here with like two different diseases. So to give you an example, so a patient would walk in maybe with a fever to the doctor office, and like the fever could be something like minor, maybe like simple flu that just needs some rest and eating some vitamin C, and that's it. Or it can actually also be like something huge, like a bacterial infection that would kill them if they don't take any antibiotics. And on the surface, these two symptoms would look exactly the same, but their treatments are so different. And basically in this scenario, so if you treat this system like if you like see both of them as actual fever instead of identifying which one which, you can't treat the patient right, you cannot fix the machine right. And what usually happens is like you just like end up guessing, and half of your guess would be absolutely wrong, and just like make it worse actually. So here's like where this team was standing. So basically like they had like one symptom, which is like one wrong answer with like two different diseases under it. And what made this worse, like the one number that they could actually show the fever would never show them anything. It was show them like this person was actually healthy, which made things way worse. Okay, now and yeah, like yeah, now like opposite is the exact word of this thing, and it's like simply why like guessing is actually so expensive here. And so basically, like yeah, if the disease here is actually retrieval, the cure is entirely in the search itself. So basically, how you're gonna cut up documents, how you're gonna index them, how you're gonna rank what comes back, and maybe like you can work there like maybe less than a month, and you can generally fix this issue entirely. But for example, if the disease is actually in generation, if you and if you spent the whole month working on that, the whole time would be wasted here because the search was never like sick in the first place, and the cure should have been like somewhere completely else, like the place where like how you're gonna force the model to stick to the page instead of generating some random stuff from their memory. So like picture the team that would guess this thing. So what happens like they would feel like the system is maybe wrong. So what happens is like they would assume that the model is the issue, because like the model is the existing part here. So and also like the part that everyone talks about. So what happens like they would pour like months into making the language model better, smarter, etc. And maybe for their case like the entire time the actual disease was actually in the search part, like just sitting there and treated, because they were like just curing the patient who was never sick at the first place. And guessing which disease you have isn't is a simple slip here. It's actually like we're talking like months of work, a lot of money, a lot of resource allocation that would be spent treating the wrong patient in the first place. Okay, I think now by now you can understand and you can see exactly like why the green number betrayed this team. So they like had one signal of the search and one signal of the writing, and what happened is like the quality score did like the most natural thing, like the most reasonable thing in this scenario, and the most like also at the same time the most destructive thing that it can even do. What happens is like it averaged both of them, and it blended them together into like it blended two independent things into just like one number. And here's like how I wanted to see this thing, and like this is actually the actual mechanism of this whole failure here. So I wanted to picture a thermostat like wired to let's say like thermostat wired to two different rooms. Like one room is freezing and one room is on fire. So what happens like the thermostat would read the average here, and in this case like the report of this thermostat, like the average of these two would tell you something like the temperature is actually pleasant like 72 or something like that, because like the two opposite sides here. And for this case like it was actually technically the measurement was correct for the average, but in reality it was completely useless. I mean, because like at that time like no single room had like 70 to Fahrenheit like temperature, and what happens like that number is hiding the fire in plain sight. So like basically that's like the 94 here is like the average of the search is struggling and the writing is fine, or the opposite, blended into like just like one calm green number that describe no real part of the system at all. And what happens is it would actually just like hide the room that's burning from ever like from people to ever like discover it, just like hiding it in plain sight. And what happens basically like this is like a major lesson here, like summary is would always like throws information away, and the only question is which one is thrown away. And this one, like for example, throw away the single thing that they needed, which is like which room was actually on fire in this one. Okay, so here's like where this lands, and I want you to actually feel this because this would actually like change the whole problem. So the system wasn't actually untrustworthy because like it was bad, because like the model was good, the engineering was good, the team was good. The reason it was untrustworthy because it was undiagnosable, and when it failed, there was no way to find where the failure was actually happening. And like lesson to take from here, like a thing that you cannot diagnose is a thing that you can trust at all, no matter how good it is, because like if you can never answer the one question that matters, then when things goes wrong, and usually that always happen, everything would goes wrong because of entropy. So what happens is like you would never know where to look. And like this like the whole shift, if you want, if you take anything away from this video, I want to take this thing, this lesson away. Like the problem for this one was never quality, the problem for this was actually visibility. And at the same time, this actually good news here because when we talk about quality, it's hard to manufacture quality, it's hard to fix quality. It's not like fixing visibility, you can always build stuff to see more. And let me show you now exactly how you can see more, how you can build this needed visibility in the systems. So like yeah, let's talk about this now. So basically like the system is failing, and you figure out it's undiagnosable. So what you should do here, like let me be honest about the reflex here because it's almost everyone and yeah, like everyone would get this wrong almost. So the reflex is make the model better, get a bigger one, a newer one, tune the prompt better. Uh, so what happens like the AI would give the wrong answers, so let's improve the AI. That's the reflex here. And this one would feel like progress because it feels like exactly the most reasonable thing to do. And it's actually a trap, and for a reason that has nothing to do with AI in the first place, and everything to do with how you fix any system at all. So let me put the two roads side by side so you can understand them better. Here's like the road that was never taken, and why it pulls so hard for this one. Like what happens like you ship better model, like maybe like one config change one afternoon, and that one would feels like emotion, like progress. And that's why it's actually wrong, and this is like the first principle here. Not we're not talking about AI point at this time. So from first principles, what happens is like for this mistake, if we're gonna generalize it, is the reason of this like you're treating before you even like doing the diagnosis. And so basically what happens is like you don't know if the disease is in the search or the writing. So basically like upgrading the model means betting your whole effort on just like one of the two reads, and basically it's built on a hunch with like zero evidence. And like if the real disease was the search, then you just spent months and a lot of money and resources on the wrong patient here, and the system is exactly as broken as before. The only reason is that now you also believe you fixed it, so which is just like make the things even worse. So this is like the oldest mistake there is. It's been happening like for ages now in different like school of thought, medicines, biology, etc. And basically in everywhere, like from since the beginning civilization. This mistake is something so common. Basically, for example, in systems like in medicine, that thing would like be like, for example, you'd never accept a surgeon who operates before the scan. That's something so so clear for us. But although it's something reasonable, we don't do the same when it comes to building and fixing systems. So what usually happens is like most people would say like, let me just try a better model, and that's exactly that. In other words, if we're gonna talk about, for example, for medicine, it's like a surgeon will just like start cutting you on the board before like even doing a scan to figure out what's actually the reason of your illness. So it's basically like treatment before diagnosis is actually malpractice, and does not matter how good it feels, still malpractice, and you should never do that. Okay, now after I told you like what you do not do, so here's the road that actually works in this type of stuff. And honestly, I want you like to notice here, because it's not glamorous. It's not like something that is would feel so fun to be to do. And most problems are like, the most solutions of problems are not fun, and they're not the most exciting thing to do. That's the reality of things. So basically, like before you improve anything, what you need to do is like you need to make the system measurable. So like you need an instrument to each part separately of the system. Like, so for example, basically what you need is like you need to see basically you need to see each instrument by its own, whether like, for example, whether the thirst is actually working, whether the writing is working, and from that like you need to build like real test set, like out of actual questions. That way what happens like you would be measuring reality, not the demo part, and you should never like have like an average, as I explained before here. This would basically tells you nothing. Okay, so basically here what happens is like what you're buying here basically is not like a better answer. What you're buying here from all this is actually like buying, because like for this work, when it happens, it will not just generate like better answers, smarter answers. No, not yet. What you're buying is actually sight, visibility. Basically, what you're buying from this effort is the ability to know which part is actually broken before you lay on finger on which one, and you start doing any type of fixes. And this is actually like the thing that separates the senior, like the lead architects, the CTOs, the people who are experts, and like they've seen the patterns in multiple systems, like in different industries, from someone who's junior or some general consultants here. So the general ones, juniors, maybe even like maybe some senior engineers, this is what like happens for them. So what happens is like they want just to fix the issue. So right now, like, because fixing the issue feels like the job that must be done, but for the more experienced ones, the ones that have seen the pattern repeat again and again in different systems, they would see this first. So because like what happens, like they've been burnt enough, like they've been burnt enough and seen enough pattern, they built enough pattern recognition to know like that fixing what you can't see is just like guessing, like just like following a hunch with just like extra steps, and just like gives you a bigger bill, and 99.9% it's not real fix. It's just like it's like gambling. Okay, so I think this video is long enough now, so maybe next week I'm gonna release second part of this video, where I'm gonna walk you toward the rest of this, like how you're gonna fix the architecture of this like specific type of systems, and many more important stuff that you need to hear. So if you find this video useful so far, just like write a good comment, and see you in the next video. Take care.